is Kevin Mao, and today we're drinking Knee Deep Brewing Citra Extra Pale Ale. It is a single hop pale ale, obviously Citra, and it is from Knee Deep Brewing in Auburn, California, which, ironically enough, Auburn, Massachusetts is my wife's hometown. So we're going to drink some Auburn beer today. It was bottled on 10/22. Today is December 15th. So we're not quite 2 months out, so it still should be reasonably fresh. It is 7% alcohol, and I don't know a whole heck of a lot about the actual beer. Knee Deep Brewing's been around since 2010, so they are 5 years old, and they've really grown. Just looking at their website, I mean, they started with a typical contract brewing, didn't even have their own brew house, bought a small brew house. Now they got a 40-barrel brewing system, and lots of capacity for fermenting. So they're really making a lot of beer. So people are drinking it. That is a good sign. Let's go ahead and give it a crack. We'll give it a pour. As always, if you like the reviews, please subscribe. We're always looking for new friends. And go ahead and leave some comments, because we love talking about beer. Now, pale ales at one point, they were like the king of craft beers. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is still out there. They still brew a ton of it. But the IPA world has really kind of taken over the pale ales. There's not as many of them out there. They're not as prevalent. So let's give this a aroma test and see what we got. Really deep pine. I mean, just lots of pine. And then a little bit or some like orange rind. A little fresh cut grass. Kind of that same play on the pine. Yeah, and I said orange rind. I guess you could probably also describe it as grapefruit too, but on that end of it. Not a bright tropical citrus, but a deep, bitter citrus. Actually, I'm supposed to do the look. I always do I didn't even do what it looks like. So we got a medium to dark yellow, low carbonation, only a few bubbles going up through it. And while the heads dissipate a little bit, so we've had probably about a finger and a half, a fairly white head on it. I wouldn't call it bright white, but it's not really tan either. It's a white head on it. So now that we're out of order, let's drink it and see what we got. So, malt background is fairly mild. I guess is the word I'm looking for. You almost get a little bit of the you almost get a feel like it's, I don't want to call it a lager, but that light bready saltine cracker. You don't get a lot of deep riffs, caramel malt, but just that bready, light bread, white bread, saltine cracker up front. And it's got a nice bitter aftertaste. I do not know what the IBUs are, and I'm looking to see 45, and see, I would have thought they were higher. It really finishes with a bitter in the back of the throat, like a West Coast IPA to a bit. Not as severe as a lot of West Coast IPAs, but a hint of that type of bitter in the back. Then you get the pine. Not as prevalent in the taste as it is in the aroma, but you definitely pick up the pine. You get a hint of orange. And a hint of something that I cannot pick up. There is something in there, and I just can't put my finger on it. But overall, if they would have called us an IPA, I would have probably still agreed with them. You get the pine, you get the bitter, you get some tropical fruit, you get some orange in there. I would probably expect a little bit more malt backbone in an IPA, and it's probably why it's more of a pale ale. But it's a nice, drinkable beer. I don't think it's a world beater. Score-wise, I think it should come in probably right around a B. So we'll give it just a hint. We'll give it a little nudge over the B mark. We'll call it an 86 out of 100. So good beer, drinkable. I would drink it again. I don't know if you guys have tried it. Let me know what you think of it. Until next time, keep drinking.